And we're live. First time in a while doing this. I'm not going to be working on the harpies. I'm going to work instead on this guy. Certainly a good way to start, Joe. But without a doubt, there is truth to that. But it goes well beyond that. Hey, Peter. It's good evening. Is it good evening for you? No, it's good morning for you. What's going on, brother? So, oh, sorry. There you go. Even better. Yeah. So it's been a while since I've done this, and a lot of the reason is because it's just one, Thursdays have been a little bit difficult to get to do anything, and two, it kind of lost steam. Yeah, 9 a.m. here. Yep. So I thought. In fact, it's on my phone. For some reason, I've always done this. I'll show you. The two times that I have on my phone. London and Tokyo. London, loved London when I went there many, many years ago. And Tokyo because I can't wait. So anyway, yeah, so it's been a while since I've actually done this. And the reason has been, again, it became a little overwhelming. But I think the time has come where I feel like there's just so much, in here that it just needs to come out a little bit. This is always kind of off the cuff. We'll see where it goes. But right now, here's what I guess I want to reframe this in a way that it's so just to piss off the Cheeto baby, Stephen Colbert 2028. I'd vote for him. Anybody but Trump, really. Put that aside. But let's for a second, let's leave all that stuff aside for a second. Because I don't think this is about, a right versus left or Republican versus Democrat or anything like that. I genuinely believe the situation we're in right now is we are in a world where it literally is, it's good versus evil. And I know for some people that might be a bit of a stretch. It's like, how dare you, or how can you think that? Why do you think that what's currently going on is evil? Isn't there anything good happening? There's a lot of good happening, whatever. And the answer is one can certainly look at some of that. I don't. One of the things that my wife, I should say, one of the smartest people I know. One of the things my wife said years ago was to our kids, don't lie. And when they lied on the small stuff, she'd say, if you lie on the small stuff, how do I expect to trust you when it comes to the bigger stuff? And that's what I kind of feel like right now. It's the gaslighting and lying that's going on with the current administration. The people who are kind of running it, to try to tell us that what we see, what we do, what we believe, what we feel, but what is not, but more importantly, what is tangible is wrong. I was thinking about there are qualities in a person that I always admire. The first thing is that if you make a mistake, sorry, I'm just moving this model over here a little bit so I can get a little access to it. If one makes a mistake, see, yeah, it's not acceptable anymore. Yeah. If you make a mistake, admit that you made a mistake. Example, if you make a mistake saying that, hey, we're going to go invade Iceland, Iceland, 4 times, and you get called out on it, your puppets shouldn't be sitting there and just saying, well, he meant land of ice, which if you knew anything, would you understand this? They would be they come back with these, like, you're the idiot for not understanding the words that are coming out of his mouth, rather than he made a mistake. And it would have been one thing if they said mistakes show growth. Exactly. If you admit to a mistake, that's fine. I say it all the time about me at my work, my job. It's like I made a lot of mistakes, and I clearly own a lot of the stuff that we do. If I'm the project manager on my job, and something doesn't go right, I own it, unless somebody's flagrantly doing something. Then it's like then it then becomes a different situation. But generally, I own the problem. If things aren't going the way the project should go, I own the problem. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. The second thing, and the thing that I think finally made me kind of cross the Rubicon, if we want to say this, of why I'm doing this tonight, because as I said, I don't think this is a left-right, conservative, liberal, or progressive, Democrat, Republican, any of that stuff. This is purely about right and wrong. There were a few comments that were made this week by people within the administration that I think are remarkably chilling. And the two things were that, one, Dr. Oz, who is part of the administration, saying that to Fox News that if people worked one more year beyond retirement, we'd be able as a country to have trillions of dollars more. And then to have his agriculture secretary say to us, people can get by with, to feed themselves at $15 a day total. And when I hear that and I see the lifestyle that these people are leading, the instantaneous thought of, and this is a conversation we have in the morning about, are we living in an Aldous Huxley world, or are we living in a George Orwell world? Where that's Orwellian. Doesn't matter about your box. It matters how you lift others so they have a box. Yeah. Good point, Joe. But right now, when I hear that comment, it's about, we're being told you can get by with less. You can get by with less retirement time. You can get by with less food. You can get by with fewer pencils, fewer dolls. You can get by with all this. This is becoming the new norm of or what's being sold to us. And I got to tell you, that to me, like, for example, the totalitarian shit that goes on, in some ways I can almost expect it. But when you're trying to turn the narrative to the preparation of the society to suffer even more so that they can do better, that's where you've now crossed a certain line internally within me. Remember, I admit it, I'm a socialist. I believe that any policies that are out there need to be created so that they benefit the greater good. Capitalism can work within a socialist structure. It cannot work independent of it. It doesn't work that way. Now, then you get what's going on right now. So when I'm being told to retire 1 year later than I should, or my Social Security, my Medicare, all these things, I should be able to do with less. I should be not having to worry about having cancer research done. It's okay. We'll figure it out. You'll be fine. When it's all of that stuff happening, that's to me when we start running into problems. And I I'm going to go out on a limb. This is how civil wars start. Revolutionary civil wars, a la what happened in the Soviet Union, Russia, 1917. And I'm not saying I want that. I am not saying I want that, but that is exactly where we are heading. American Dream, you can get by if you rent your bootstraps from your employer. Yeah. But also the if we take a look at the people in charge, this to me is no different than like what Peter's just saying about the American dream. If you are making a ton of money and you believe you've earned that money and you believe it's okay to earn that money on the backs of others, and it's okay for us to live a lavish lifestyle, and for you commoners, well, you didn't earn it because you didn't build the business, or you didn't build this, or you didn't do that. I have. When you say that, it bothers me. This morning, I heard in a news clip from our president about what were the words that he used? That this country was built on merit, and we need to return to merit. And I think to myself, how dare you? Your father may have earned it on merit, may have. You had $1 million donation from him. So when people start talking about merit, what bothers me to no fucking end is, how did you get your money? Were you born into a family that had it? Did you earn it? Great. And believe that you deserve it where others shouldn't? You're not helping other people kind of get into that same position because you were helped at one point. Nobody makes merit. Nobody can get to the top to whatever that is alone. You make it with something, with somebody, off of somebody. This whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can do this all alone and then merit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. So that's the reason why I wanted to get back on again tonight. Because I think after all the crazy, ludicrous stuff that's being said in so many different ways, I can accept it from the source that it's coming from. Okay. However, when I'm now being told, like I said, I know I'm getting a little repetitious here, but when I'm now being told that I can do by with less so that others can do by with more, that's where I have a problem. And it's like I said, I don't have a problem with sacrificing for people. You guys are friends. You guys need something. I'll do my damnedest to help out wherever I possibly can, where I can. I'm not made out of money, but I mean, I can certainly try to help out my friends wherever I can, but I don't think it should be an expectation of me to have less because others want more. That I don't think is right. That is not the American dream. In fact, I would go as far as saying that's the antithesis of the American dream. I genuinely believe that it's the antithesis of the American dream. One of the things that I think we've bitten into here in this country so hard is the belief that we are and have always been a capitalist country. And the answer is not necessarily. Capital has always been, if you read Howard Zinn's book, people's history of the United States, capitalism has always been an important part, but it's not the foundational element of this country. You know, capitalism kind of grew in, you know, and now we're trying to relive a golden age, you know, that gilded age that we lived in the late 1800s through the early 2000s, through the early 1900s, excuse me. We're trying to return to that. Eat the rich, soil and gold, soil and gold, new flavors. That's right. I'm in favor of that, but I don't think we can continue down this model. And I think, and you know, I've said this before, and I think Peter, you might have been part of that conversation. I've said this before. This is the part of where ignorance comes into play, where, you know, I think generally speaking, hey, I got my phone, I got my sports, I got my this, I got my that, I got my Kardashians, I got everything I need. When we live uneducated lives, this is what ends up happening. We end up falling down this pit. Golden age that wasn't gold. Well, it was for some, but not for others. The Wild West, Trump would be the guy on the shady card selling Trump Transformer. He is a modern version of a snake. Yeah, I would. In fact, this is like the one thing I would say. I think he's excellent at. I think he's the world's greatest grifter. Absolutely, the world's greatest grifter. He is able to find the stupidest people on the planet, and we'll leave the other ones out for a second, like the Steve Millers. You're able to find the stupidest people on the planet and be able to sell them whatever you want. Because one, they're susceptible to stupidity, but he's also very, very good at being able to sell. You know, he's not the art of the deal, it's the art of the con. Okay. But he's also surrounded himself by people who will capitalize on his ability to do these things. They're riding his coattails. All of them are riding his coattails. And in some ways, they've taken those coattails and gone further with him. Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. But the Steve Millers of the world. But that's they're able to take that and turn it around. Now, I've read a lot on this stuff over the last number of years. Certainly, if you read up on, in particular, the Republican Party since the late 1970s and their a desire to win. Not all Republicans, but the Republican Party, coupled with the Christian right and a couple of others, their ability to try to move this country in a different direction because they knew they were losing the conversation. Sorry, they were. They were trying to find ways of gaining it back, and now what they're trying to do is they found the perfect automaton in some ways, the perfect being to be able to exercise their ability to do the damage that they're doing now through, you know, patriotism, you know, and all that. But I would love to have a conversation with those. I can't believe they don't walk out when he shits himself. Yeah. I you know, Joe, I think it's the proverbial. I genuinely think they think his shit don't stink. It's the only thing I can think of. So I'm just trying to get this, at least get a one piece put together here tonight. But let's, like I said, let's continue to be let's continue to think about this. One of the things about this is let's turn this conversation around for a second. Let's just say that in 2028, okay, elections are held. Barack Obama wins. Okay. And Barack Obama says, executive order number 1, every police officer, every police station in the United States has to be led by a black man. Okay. We're going to change the whole ICE structure to go after white people. We're going to make all these changes. We're going to go send our new ICE agents, our border patrol, after the illegals, the people who own guns, because now I've unilaterally signed an executive order that says guns are no longer allowed. Second Amendment, yeah, it's going through the courts. Until then, we're going to go after everybody who has a gun. Watch the right start to lose their mind. Obviously, the example that I'm giving is an extreme and a stupid one. Do it. I don't think we should. Sorry, guys, let me read this stuff. He is all bravado and threats until he gets pushback. It is so fun to me that this businessman has gotten the nickname Taco on Wall Street. Oh, yeah. I love that name for him. Not from the faces I see in those videos. Do it. Really? Funny. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why they're squirming so much. I never noticed that, Joe. I don't think that that's in the cards. I don't think that that's something that will ever happen in this country. Because I think the left sometimes is a little too kind in how they do things, which is probably the right thing to do. White people problem. Yeah. But if that was ever the case, watch the other side go all ape shit over you can't do that, the Constitution this and laws and this, but you're okay if it works in your favor. This is part of the tribalism that I think, when we talk in the morning about how as a group we show kindness, love, and respect to each other. And we're all on different sides. I know that there are people who are further to the right than I am, much further to the right, but we all can still come together under this hobby and talk about, good stuff. And at least our kindness comes through. But when we have all this tribalism, it's okay for my side to do this. It's not okay for your side to do it. That kind of BS has to come to an end. One of the things I keep hearing about is like the games, the rules being changed. I don't like the rules. I'm going to change the rules. You can't change the rules. You can't change the Constitution. Yes, you can, but you have to jump through hoops. You can't unilaterally, through an executive order or by not listening to the courts, say, this is how I'm going to do things. That's not how it works. Nothing is just going to be trusted, but after the EU put their foot down and tried to make an delegation, he saw the reaction of his monarchy. He is now walking back on the booming threats. I don't think he... Yeah, I will... Peter, if I can be so bold, I wouldn't say that. The pressure was put on. He backed off. The pressure's off. Pressure has to be on at all times. This guy's a bully. And as we know, you push back hard enough on a bully, they'll stop, right? Until the next time. You start showing kindness and weakness, whatever, they'll come back at you. So the EU does need to continue to put pressure on it. I think pushback is not something that you can do once or twice. That pressure, it's like you just keep going at it. Just keep hitting him until he's out of office. George, your entire society is built up around tribalism. Everything is a binary, us versus them format. From sports to the two-party system. I totally agree, Peter. Peter, you're not going to hear any difference from me. I agree. That tribalism, that binariness, that digital 0 and 1. You're either a 0 or you're a 1. That it has to come to an end. I agree. Maybe it's partly because I'm a Libra. I believe there's a lot of stuff in between, But yes, in this country, we have to find ways of moving away from that. I don't know that I don't know that we can right now. I do think that our country has been irreparably harmed. Um, I don't know that we're going to be recovering anytime soon from it. I'm pretty comfortable. I'm 60. You guys know that. I'm 60. I don't think in my lifetime I will see the United States recover from the damage that's been done in just this 1 year. I don't expect it's going to happen. I hope to live long enough to see it. But I think the alliances that are now being formed, uh, the political shifts, both in terms of what's going on between Europe and other countries, but also China starting to come across like they're the sane ones. Um, all of that, I think, is going to be. It's this current moment has changed how things are going across the planet. Things are not going to be the same, and I know that that's a stupid thing to say. Things aren't going to be yeah, but this one administration will have effectively done exactly what it wanted to do. It wanted to change world order. Yep. But that world order that's going to be changed is not going to be certainly not in the United States' favor. Across the Rubicon this time, EU, Canada, and other countries are now making deals and plans for a world without the U.S. as the world leader. Yeah. Peter, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Having any one power being the superpower is a dangerous place, as we're seeing what's going on now. As much as um, we're going to start losing our clout, we still have a mighty economy, and we also have formidable weapons, and that I don't think is going to change anytime soon. So I do think that the realignment of Canada, the EU coming more together. I don't get me wrong, I'm in favor. I would have been in favor even if this didn't happen. I think that kind of tightness of bringing countries together in a common bond of both diplomatic bonds as well as economic bonds is a good thing. I just never expected that it was going to be the United States that's going to be the thing that instigated this as becoming the enemy to force this issue to come about. Should be no ruler of this blue ball. Well, when you have somebody who believes that their morality is what should guide the planet, yeah, it's a pretty fucked place. All right, let me see if I can find a part here. Nope, F1. Sorry, guys. I'm going to try to build a little of this model at least. Kaya is her own independent woman. She a whole lot of lady. She need no man. Yeah. Oh, I don't disagree. That's the whole thing about when there's all this kind of pushback against we're superior, we're this, we're that. It's like, yeah, until nature decides to step in, then you're toast. Then you're toast. But anyway, I'm actually, funny enough, I was talking to my wife about this earlier, and I was angrier about it than I am now. I'm coming across a lot more lucidly than I thought I would. At least I'd like to think I am. I genuinely don't know how this is going to end up. I do think that my question is whether or not Article 25 will be enacted at some point. And I'm not saying it should. I'm just wondering if at some point it isn't going to come to others aren't going to come to the realization that this person has lost their fucking mind. Because the stuff that you see and hear, it's I listened to some of the speech from Davos. He has a sneeze on this planet. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we'll talk about that one in a second, Joe. But I heard a speech, and it's like I've never considered myself to be an intellectual, but when I hear the words that are coming out of the president's mouth, I'm like, you do realize you don't sound intelligent. You also, I mean, I'm not saying you sound like a loony. You just don't sound smart. You're in a place with some of the most world-class leaders out there. For better or worse, some of those fucking oligarchs can die for all I care. Yes, I'm sorry. I don't mean it that way. That is actually a little too harsh. But I do think that, they're many of them are very evil people. But in there, a lot of them are very intelligent people. So when you hear the language coming out of this president's mouth, it's like you do realize you sound like a dummy. Is going to lose the dollar as the world's common coin. If that happens, the U.S. economy will collapse as you are borrowing more than you pay on interest. That is a death spiral. Yep. Ken, finally, good evening. How are you, my friend? Central debt is now over $38 trillion. That's almost $230,000 per household. Oh, I get it. Yeah, I agree. But don't worry about it. We're going to add 50% more to our military budget. We're going to go from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion. I don't even know what ICE's budget is, but it's some obscene amount. But we're going to keep taking money away from the people who need it. Yeah, not going to happen. Yeah, Peter, it's funny enough. For years, the national debt didn't bother me as much, and maybe this is just age coming in. And I'm not saying it from my perspective. I think I'm more concerned about it for my kids. For Joe's kids, for Ken's kids. What kind of world are we going to leave for them? And in particular, under this regime, which is, I legitimately don't think we're saving money. I don't think that we're cutting back on our expenses. Oops. So anyway, doing this for half an hour already. I'm bothered, and I hope at some point, I genuinely hope that Americans start to wake up to the trouble that we are in. To see the trouble that we are in. But at the same time, and by the way, Ken, I finally listened to This Is Water. Shame what happened to him. I guess he was a very troubled soul. But I listened to it, and it was a fabulous speech. I I've actually saved it on YouTube just to listen to it again at some point. But I think, and I thought a lot about what David Wallace Foster said. I probably got the name wrong. I can't remember if it's Wallace Foster or Foster Wallace. Always get it wrong. But I do think that his very poignant comment of not thinking inside of your own shell. That the world, we tend to think that the world revolves around us. Glad you liked it. Yeah. In fact, interestingly enough, one of the examples, or a few of the examples that he used about thinking outside of your shell, were ones that I've read other places. Charles, what's going on, brother? In particular, the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. David Covey, I think is his name, who used similar examples of thinking outside of your own shell. You are not the center of the universe. We think that we are, but we are legitimately not. Chuck, about to be hit by the biggest winter storm we've had in years. Yes. Stay safe. Be careful. Be careful. This shit ain't something that, that you can just treat haphazardly. About time to get some snow. Yeah, everyone's panic buying milk and bread for some reason. Get those staples just in case, dude. It's not. Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not a big fan of panic buying, but I can understand that you might want to stock up on a few days worth of groceries just in case. But yeah, Peter, I keep coming back to. We're not going to get out of this until Americans in particular start to use their noodles. And I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. And I know I pick on football, and I don't like the sport, but the reason I think people care more about the Super Bowl. They care more about the FanDuel stuff and all that other stuff that's going on, and they don't think about the stuff that impacts them directly. And I get it, because it's a human quality to want to dismiss pain. As a sales guy, you sell on 2 things: on pleasure and taking a pain away. And if I can come home, watch a football game, and not have to worry about work and bills and everything like that, that's good. If I don't have to worry about the politics or what have you, good. No, it's a mix, not just snow. Yeah, you guys are going to get, wintry mixes are the worst. Charles, what are your temperatures like, by the way? Among other points he made, I do like the points he made concerning humility. Yeah, I'm going to be listening to that, I think, a few times over the next couple of weeks. Any kids are going to her parents. I'm probably sleeping at work. Yeah, wise. And just don't drive. Just stay bundled up and careful of the house too. Make sure that your heaters. Do you have heaters? Make sure that you don't have like such a cold temperature that your pipes freeze. That's what you don't want to have happen. Other than that speech when I need a hard reset. Yeah. Like I said, some of the examples of thinking outside of yourself I've heard before, which are powerful, but I liked his approach. And yeah, I think it's going to be something that's going to get listened to quite a bit. When you hear Trump threaten to get tough on China, that they basically own you as major foreign homes, Japan, the United Kingdom, and China. Oh, I know. Yeah, Peter, I get it. But in the same way, to hear our president mention in a interview with Fox saying that I don't think other countries would come to our defense. They wouldn't. They don't have the strength. I just don't think that they would do that. They've never done that. And I think to myself, the only time Article 5 in NATO was ever called was after September 11, and all the European countries, Denmark in particular, that came to our aid. And for some reason, 9/11 was such an important world event, particularly here in this country. And for us to was such an important world event, particularly here in this country. And for us to forget, rightfully or not, the coalition of the willing, for us as Americans to forget who are our allies and what they did to help us, and to now, to have that Orwellian flip of, yes, these people helped us. No, now they're our enemy. That kind of mentality, I don't understand. But again, Americans forget. Americans like to forget. Now read Infinite Jest and you'll hate him. I've actually put that in my cart. Have you read Infinite Jest? Why would I hate him? I hear he was a very disturbed individual. It's funny to hear that. Again, I think this is also a very common thing. Brilliant minds can be not always brilliant humans. Oh, really? Get all sorts of colored plastic on this head. So I don't like denigrating humans, and I don't like coming across like some elitist shit. But I don't understand why we also revel in the glory of being stupid. Tom Nichols and his book, The Death of Expertise, where Americans, like I said, revel in not knowing. My opinion is as good as your facts, as good as the knowledge that you have. And the answer is no, it's not. You might think that vaccines are bad, but the guy who has a degree in immunology and has studied this is probably more capable of being able to help. Let's see. Just resent firefighters from all around to come to the fires in California. Well, yeah, it took me 4 years to try to get through it, but finally did. It's a long book is all. Yeah, I actually I think it might be the longest book I've seen. Single book, 64 hours. I mean, I usually do this as I don't physically read it. I will do it as an audiobook. 64 hours. I think that's longer than Zinn's People's History of the United States. All right. You don't come off as an elitist. Yeah, I don't think I am. The only thing I try to do, and look, I don't care which side politically you're on. I heard stuff today from the left, and it's like, that doesn't sound right. I heard actually something extremely disturbing from the left that I would not espouse again until I had veracity of it, because that's like, again, something to do with Epstein. It's like, it was so off the chain evil that if that is true, it would be a game changer. But I'd want to make sure that this is an actual truth to what's going on before it becomes, before it's like, okay, let me verify this before I start believing one person saying, hey, did you know? The other word is another matter. Yeah. Oh, hey, it's a Thursday. It is. Robert, how are you? Yeah. It's been a while. I haven't done this in a while, but I needed to get a bunch of stuff off my chest about what's going on right now. And again, I just want people to understand I am not going after one individual except for one guy, Steve Miller. That guy is a straight up National Socialist. I don't care what anybody says. That guy has more hatred in his heart than anybody I've ever seen on the world stage. Personally seen. You're doing too well. Too many paper towels. Luxury. Nice. Come off Alita's shit. You can remove Alita's. I could probably do that. I probably could come across as a shit. I might. But I'd like to stay on top of stuff. I'd like to be fairly knowledgeable and stuff. You know, I like to question. You know, somebody says something from whatever political side you're on or whatever view you have, religious view, political view, you know, whatever. It's okay. What are the facts? Show me the numbers. Show me the facts. Show me from a legitimate source that this is factual. That's how I think. Like I said, I think Americans have forgotten or just don't care. Like I said, your opinion or my opinion is as good as your expertise. No, that's not the case. But yes, that's what Americans believe. So, drop the piece. So anyway, you're shit. You're a shit of the people. Nice. Thursday evening rant needs a bit of levity sometimes too. It made you smile. Now you can rant on. Yeah, in fact, Peter, what I normally do is I wrap up and then it's like, let's talk about models or something else. Because I don't want this whole hour to be about just going off on a tangent. In fact, like I said, it's like I think I'm probably seeding a lot more than I'm coming across, which I kind of appreciate. I don't want to come across like some loony who has nothing more to do than just to kind of like an old man screaming at the world. I'd like to think that, yes, I'm sure you youngsters are probably like, but you are an old man and you are screaming at the world. And I would say you're probably right. But I'd also like to think that what I'm saying is not just doesn't come with some kind of factualness. I'd like to think. I'd like to hope. Anyway, got a good bit of the head already done. It's like a horrible look. It's like squashed. Got to get the helmet on that and helmet in the ears, and maybe that's the last stuff I'll do. But yeah, so I'll do a more full version at the end. But the only thing I would ever ask anybody, particularly anybody who listens in on these things, the only thing I'll ever ask from anybody, just as David Wallace Foster would say, like in This Is Water, or Stephen Covey would say in the introduction to Seven Habits, it's don't think of yourself as, hey Nick, good evening. Don't think of yourself as the universe doesn't revolve around you. Think of it as you are part of the universe, and sometimes you have to think about the others around you. Okay, so as we say in the morning, Go out there and continue to do good. Treat people with love, kindness, and respect. Hey, Nick. In fact, if we did more of that and hated less, I think things would be better. I mean, I might be wrong, but if I am, prove me that I'm wrong. Let's give it a try and prove it. Yeesh. What did I do there? Prove to me that I am wrong. Okay. There it goes. If you lift up another, others will lift you. Amen. So I just think of it as I am the universe and everything revolves around me. That is, to quote, only because after Ken has mentioned it 3 times and I finally had an opportunity to listen to his speech, David Wallace's This Is Water speech at a commencement. It was a commencement address speech that he did 2099, something like that, where he talks about that, countering the belief that we believe that the universe, that we are the center of the universe. Every experience includes every experience that we have includes us. That makes sense. Therefore, we think it's all about us. Think beyond that. I mean, he starts, of course, by just, do critical thinking too. Not to come up with answers necessarily. But just to think. But again, I think if we start with just doing right and being kind and all that stuff, if we think about the other, if we think outside of our own shells, it'd be a good place to start. It's a decent movie about DFW when he was followed by David Lipsky from NPR for an interview called The End of the Tour. Really? Documentary, I assume? Journey Down the Rabbit Hole. Have you seen that? I don't think I have. Hey, Peter, Ken. So anyway, with that being said, all that being said, it's going to wrap up on this guy's head. Probably work on this upstairs. Hang out with my daughter. It's kind of chill the rest of the night. Movie, but worth a watch. Journey Down the Rabbit Hole and The End of the Tour. I know I've heard of that. Deals with wormholes, dreams, and mental manipulation of the physical plane. Mind-blowing. Have to look into both of those. So, there we are. Okay. The head from Dragon R2, of the Dragon R2. So that's the best way of doing this. It's pretty cool. So I almost missed the whole rant. You can rewatch it. It's your call. It is all up to you, Nick. You can rewatch it or not. But in a nutshell, one quick recap. Don't gaslight and don't lie. And that's what we're hearing a lot from the uppers. And kind of tied into what we were just talking about with what with the recommendation from Ken in This Is Water. Think about if things were flipped. Think about it from another perspective. What if instead of we having this, the stuff happening with our current president, what if it were Obama doing all this crazy stuff only from the left? How would people view it? Why is it good for one but not for the other, kind of thing? So anyway, if you want, rewatch it. If not, that's fine. Dance, remember, everyone needs someone, and there's always someone above you. Amen, Peter. Peter, have a great morning. We'll talk to you later. No Thursday read watch is no fun. No Thursday read watch is no fun. Is I can't comment on things. Like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, fair enough. But if you wanted to know the thoughts, rewatch. So with that, my friends, I'm gonna get going here myself. To reiterate, go out there and do good. This world absolutely needs good. It needs kindness. It needs sanity. It needs thought. Maybe that's part of the thing I need to start including too. We need to not just do good, but we need to think good. We need to think what is good and do that. Think about what's going on. Use the God-given tools that we were created with. Go out there and use that. So do good, think, show kindness, and just make this a better planet. Make it better. Not for maybe people thousands of miles away, maybe just people immediately around you, whoever they are. So, all right, friends, I'll be back on tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. I'll be working on the Harpy, and we'll go from there. Do good, my friends. Love you all. Peace.